Let's pause for a moment. Think about where you are right now. In your life, your career, your habits. Are you growing or just going through the motions? Transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens when we decide to live with purpose. And that decision doesn't require years. It requires intention and 90 days of consistent action. I'm here to tell you something simple. Your life can look radically different in 3 months. Not because of luck, not because of magic, but because of design. Month 1, clarity. This first month is not about doing more. It's about understanding why you're doing anything at all. What do you stand for? What do you want? What needs to change? You cannot build a meaningful life on confusion, so you start by getting clear. Wake up early, journal, think, reflect. Cut the noise so you can hear your own voice again. Month 2, commitment now. That you know what matters, you must commit. This is where most people fail. They get excited by ideas but never follow through. This month, you show up every day, create routines, build discipline, break a sweat mentally and physically. You don't wait for motivation, you become your own spark. Month 3, consistency. This is where the shift happens. You've cleared your mind, committed to the process. Now it's time to repeat it over and over. Even when you're tired, even when no one is watching, because consistency creates trust, not just with others, but with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of a transformed life. This 3-month plan isn't a shortcut. It's a blueprint. It's not about achieving everything in 90 days. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve anything for the rest of your life. So don't wait for the right time. Don't wait for permission. Your transformation begins the moment you believe it's possible and act on it. When people think about changing their lives, they usually think in terms of time. In a year, I'll be better. One day, I'll start. I need more time before I can change. But time alone doesn't change anything. Days go by whether you evolve or not. The truth is, transformation doesn't come from the passing of months or years. It comes from a decision, a deep inner commitment to live differently. And that decision can happen in a moment. What takes time is living it out consistently, but it begins with intention. Intention is the spark. It's the voice inside that whispers, this is not the life I want. I can do better. I will do better. It's the shift from being reactive to being deliberate, from drifting to driving. Intention is what takes you from saying someday to saying this day. People often confuse being busy with being intentional. They fill their calendars, hustle all day, and still feel empty. That's because movement doesn't equal progress. You can run in circles for years and not get anywhere. But the moment you stop, reflect, and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? That's when you start transforming. Because transformation doesn't require you to do more. It requires you to do what matters. In the absence of intention, life chooses for you. The world tells you who to be, what to chase, what to fear. You become a collection of other people's expectations. You wake up one day in a job you don't love, surrounded by noise you didn't ask for, and habits that keep you stuck. But when you start living with intention, you choose, you define your values, you take back the pen and begin to write your own story. Think about it. The people who've truly changed their lives didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't ask for guarantees. They didn't rely on motivation. They simply made a decision, a clear, burning choice to stop living on autopilot and start living with purpose. They didn't need more time. They needed direction. Intention sharpens your focus. It gives your actions meaning. You no longer wake up just to get through the day. You wake up to build something, yourself. You start treating your time like it matters, because it does. You begin to say no to the things that pull you off course and yes to the things that align with who you want to become. And here's the powerful part. Once you set an intention, your brain begins to work differently. It filters information based on that purpose. You start seeing opportunities that were always there but never noticed. You connect with people who reflect your values. You build habits that reinforce your growth. This is not a miracle. It's a shift in awareness. A conscious decision to become the architect of your life. You don't need years to reinvent yourself. You need a moment of clarity, a decision backed by action, and the willingness to stay the course. Time will pass no matter what, but when you live with intention, you use that time to evolve, not to escape, not to delay, not to excuse. So stop waiting for January. Stop waiting for the right moment. The moment is here, right now, this second. All it takes is a choice, a real one, not just a wish, a decision. Because once you decide to live with purpose, everything begins to shift. And that, not time, is where true transformation begins. Clarity is powerful, but without commitment, it fades. You can have all the vision in the world, but if you don't act on it daily, it becomes just another dream collecting dust. Month 2 is where transformation gets tested. This is the month that separates the inspired from the disciplined, the curious from the serious. It's easy to dream about a better life. It's something else entirely to build one. Commitment is uncomfortable. It demands consistency when motivation has run dry. It doesn't care if you're in the mood. It doesn't wait for convenience. Commitment shows up when it's hard, not just when it's easy. And that's why it's so rare and so powerful. Because when you truly commit, you start shaping your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who wants change. You begin to see yourself as someone who creates it. The truth is, most people live in a loop. They get excited, they start strong, and then they fall back into old habits the moment life pushes back. But real commitment isn't about getting through a perfect day. It's about staying the course on imperfect ones. It's making a promise to yourself and honoring it, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. In this second month, excuses become louder, doubt creeps in, distractions multiply, and that's when you need to remember why you started. You need to dig in. Commitment means saying, I will keep showing up even if I don't feel like it, even if progress is slow, even if no one claps. Because results are not built in bursts, they're built in repetition. You begin to develop routines that support your goals, not just routines that fill time, but habits that feed your future. Waking up earlier, moving your body, learning something new, saying no to what no longer fits. These are not glamorous actions. They are quiet, deliberate, and often unnoticed. But they stack. Over time, they create a foundation strong enough to hold the life you want to live. It's also during this phase that your relationship with yourself starts to change. You begin to trust your own word. You stop needing outside validation to stay on track because you've started becoming your own source of accountability. And that's a breakthrough. When you no longer need pressure to perform, when showing up becomes part of who you are. What commitment really gives you is freedom. Not freedom in the sense of doing whatever you want, but freedom from regret. Freedom from the weight of what if. Because nothing is heavier than potential that was never acted on. Commitment is how you ensure that doesn't become your story. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about staying in the game. It's about refusing to quit on yourself, even when the results aren't instant, even when progress feels invisible. Because deep down, you know that something is building, a new mindset, a new standard, a new version of you. This month is the grind, the test, the turning point. But it's also where the real shift begins. Because if you can stay committed when it's hard, you'll earn the right to keep going when it gets easier. And when you've done the work, when you've kept the promise, you don't just change your routine, you change your identity. You're no longer someone trying to become something. You are someone becoming it. And that's what transformation is all about. By the third month, something begins to shift, not just in your habits, but in how you see yourself. You've gained clarity. You've committed. You've pushed through distractions, fatigue, and self-doubt. But now it's time to do something that seems simple, but is deceptively hard. Repeat. Consistency is not glamorous. It rarely gets applause. It's not exciting. It doesn't come with fireworks or breakthroughs every day, but it is the secret ingredient behind every great transformation. Because the truth is, success isn't about doing something extraordinary once. It's about doing the ordinary things, the right things, over and over without letting up. Most people want change, but they don't want the repetition. They want the reward, but they resist the routine. They chase new strategies, quick wins, shortcuts, but that mindset keeps them stuck in a cycle of starting over. Consistency breaks that cycle. It's the quiet force that takes your efforts from temporary to permanent. This third month is where identity starts to lock in. You begin to notice that your actions are no longer just choices. They're becoming patterns. You don't have to convince yourself to do the work anymore. It's just what you do. You're no longer negotiating with yourself every morning. You just show up. And that's a sign of deep growth. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about rhythm. It's about showing up on the good days and the hard days, knowing that the process itself is the reward. Some days will feel powerful, others will feel like a crawl. But what matters is that you stay in motion. Because momentum isn't built by intensity, it's built by persistence. And something beautiful happens when you stay consistent. You start to trust yourself. You stop questioning your ability to follow through. That inner voice that once doubted now begins to believe. Confidence isn't born from hype. It's born from history, from seeing yourself follow through again and again. You become your own evidence. People around you may not notice the small, quiet victories, but you will. You'll notice how your thoughts are clearer, how your reactions are calmer, how your habits feel more natural. These subtle shifts aren't loud, but they're powerful. They're the roots of a new life forming beneath the surface. In this phase, you also realize that consistency is not about grinding endlessly. It's about sustainability. You learn to pace yourself. You start choosing systems over willpower. You make your environment support your goals. You remove friction, you simplify. And in that simplicity, you create space for growth, for focus, for peace. But perhaps most importantly, consistency gives you dignity. It allows you to look in the mirror and say, I've kept going. No matter how slow the progress, no matter how small the steps, you stayed in the arena. You honored the promise, and that matters more than any single win. This third month isn't about finishing, it's about becoming. You're not just someone trying to change anymore. You are someone who changes things. You've proven to yourself that you can build, not just wish. That you can stay steady, even when it's quiet, even when no one is watching, even when the old you tries to come back. This is where transformation cements itself, not in the noise, but in the pattern, not in what you do once, but in what you keep doing. And if you can carry this consistency forward beyond these 90 days, then this won't just be a phase, it'll be the foundation for everything that comes next. At the heart of every real change lies one powerful thing: trust. Not the trust others have in you, the trust you have in yourself. Without it, no plan will last, no routine will stick. You can chase goals, stack habits, and set alarms, but if you don't believe your own word, it all unravels. Transformation begins not with intensity, but with integrity, the quiet, personal kind. Self-trust isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Every time you say you'll do something and follow through, you're laying down a brick. Wake up early when you said you would? Brick. Show up for the workout even when you're tired? Another brick. Stick to your values when it would be easier not to? Brick. Over time, those bricks become a foundation strong enough to hold your growth. But the opposite is also true. When you break promises to yourself, even small ones, something inside begins to erode. You may not see it right away, but you start doubting yourself. You start questioning whether you can follow through. You hesitate, you overthink, you procrastinate. Not because you're lazy, but because deep down, you're not sure if you'll keep your own word. And that's why self-trust matters, because when you trust yourself, you move differently. You stop needing motivation every day. You don't depend on others to hold you accountable. You become reliable, not just to the world, but to you. And that's a powerful place to be, because when you're reliable to yourself, you feel solid inside. You stop chasing external validation. You stop proving. You just do, calmly, consistently. Self-trust is also what allows you to forgive yourself and keep going. There will be days you mess up, days you fall short. But someone who trusts themselves doesn't use that as an excuse to quit. They don't collapse under guilt or shame. They reflect, reset, and return because they've built a pattern of showing up, not giving up. This kind of trust isn't loud. It's not showy. It doesn't need to post about every win. It's quiet and personal. It's waking up knowing I can rely on me today. And that confidence, that inner peace is what gives you long-term strength. Because when life throws chaos your way, you won't need to panic. You'll have a solid core. You'll know that no matter what happens around you, you will handle it. And here's the thing. The world responds to people who trust themselves. You attract better relationships because people sense you're anchored. You gain opportunities because people know you'll follow through. You live with more clarity because you're not waiting on outside permission to act. Self-trust clears the noise and centers your direction, but you must earn it, not in big dramatic moments, but in the daily choices. Do what you said you would do, even if it's small, especially if it's small. The magic is in those quiet wins no one sees. The moments when you keep going, not because someone is pushing you, but because you promised yourself something, and that matters now. So if you want to transform, start there, not with a new routine, not with another book or a list of goals. Start with keeping your word to you. That is the most underrated, most powerful kind of success. And once you build that self-trust, there's nothing you can't build on top of it. That's how you know you've truly begun to change. When you no longer hope you'll follow through, you expect to. Because you've shown yourself again and again. Most people think time is the problem. They say they'd change if they just had more of it. I'll start when things calm down, when I get through this busy week, when life gives me some breathing room. But deep down they know it's not about time. Everyone gets 24 hours. The issue is not how much time you have, it's how clearly you know what to do with it. Time isn't going to save you. A plan will. A plan gives your time purpose. It takes the endless swirl of thoughts and dreams and turns them into structure. It breaks down the overwhelming into the actionable. Without a plan, time slips through your fingers. With one, even a small window of time becomes powerful. People say they're too busy, but what they really mean is they don't know what to prioritize. They don't have a system. So they bounce from task to task, reacting, coping, surviving, but not building, not transforming. And then they look up after a few months feeling like nothing has changed. Because without a plan, even your best intentions fade. This is why planning isn't just practical, it's deeply empowering. It puts you back in control. It reminds you that your life isn't something you're watching happen, it's something you're shaping, and shaping requires direction. You can't drift your way to a new identity. You have to decide what it looks like and then build around it. A good plan doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to be clear. It should answer 3 simple questions. What do I want? What actions will move me closer? When will I do them? That's it. Simple, but powerful. Most people never even ask those questions. They jump straight into doing without thinking. And that's why they spin. But when you make a plan, even if it's not perfect, you create a path, you give your energy a direction. And suddenly, time becomes a tool, not an excuse. Having a plan also gives you momentum. Because every time you follow it, even just one small action, you're proving to yourself that you're not stuck. You're moving, and motion builds belief. You start seeing results, maybe small at first, but real, and that fuels the fire to keep going. A plan protects you on the hard days too. When motivation fades, and it always does, your plan is still there. It's your anchor. You don't have to wake up and wonder what to do. You already decided. You just follow the path you laid down when your vision was clear. That's how consistency is born. Not from hype, but from structure. The people you admire, the ones who look like they have it all together, they don't have more hours. They've just made more intentional choices. They didn't wait for time to appear. They made use of the time they had because they had a plan that mattered and they stuck to it. So stop looking at the clock. Stop counting the days. Start designing them. Sit down, get quiet, ask yourself what really matters, then turn that into steps. Block time, make space, and move, even if it's slow at first. Because 1 hour of focused, intentional action is worth more than a full day of scattered effort. You don't need a miracle. You don't need more hours. You need to decide. Then build your time around that decision. That's how progress is made. That's how lives are changed. Not through more time, but through better direction. There's a moment when it finally clicks, when you realize your life isn't going to change all at once. It's not going to flip like a switch or arrive in some grand dramatic breakthrough. It's going to change choice by choice, moment by moment, day by day. And while that might sound small, it's actually your greatest source of power, because the life you want, the confidence, the discipline, the peace, the strength, it's not waiting for you at the top of a mountain. It's hiding inside your next decision. It's already within reach, disguised as something ordinary. That's the truth most people miss. They think transformation is an event. It's not. It's a series of small, honest, courageous decisions stacked on top of each other. You don't wake up and suddenly become disciplined. You wake up and choose to get out of bed when you said you would. You don't suddenly become healthy. You choose water instead of soda, the gym instead of the couch. You don't instantly become confident. You choose to speak up when it's easier to stay silent. You choose to do the thing you're scared of again and again until fear has no power over you. One choice. That's all it takes to start building something new. And the beauty of it is, you don't need to wait. You don't need permission. The next choice is always yours. In every moment, you have a fork in the road. Do you lean into growth or do you retreat into comfort? Do you take responsibility or do you blame? Do you follow your highest self or do you default to habit? Every choice becomes a vote, a quiet statement about who you are becoming. And over time, those votes add up. You cast enough of them in the right direction, and suddenly the old version of you starts to fade. The self-doubt gets quieter, the excuses lose their grip. You begin to believe in the new identity you're building, because you're no longer just thinking about it, you're living it. But here's what you need to remember. The small choices matter most. Not the big flashy ones, not the once-in-a-while leaps. It's the quiet decisions, made when no one is watching, that shape your future. The decision to keep your phone down and stay focused. The decision to show up when you don't feel like it. The decision to take the high road, to keep your word, to honor your time. Those are the choices that define you. Not because they're easy, but because they're aligned with who you want to become. And every time you make one, you strengthen that identity, you build character, you build momentum. Of course, you'll mess up sometimes, you'll make the wrong choice. That's okay, that's part of it. What matters is that you notice, that you own it, that you choose again, better this time, because as long as you're willing to keep choosing, you're still in the game. You haven't quit on yourself. And that's what separates growth from stagnation, the willingness to choose again. So if your life doesn't look how you want it to, don't wait for some perfect plan. Don't wait to feel ready. Start with the next choice. Start with one decision that aligns with your future instead of your past. One choice that speaks to who you're becoming, not who you've been. Because when it's all said and done, your life will be the sum of your decisions. Not your dreams, not your potential. Your choices. One at a time. And the beautiful thing, that next choice, it's right in front of you.